He thought fear was just a weakness, until one night, something inside his own house started watching him back, and this time, he wasn't the one in control. Daniel moved through the house with steady steps, forcing calm into every motion, as if control itself could be maintained by sheer will. The dim hallway stretched ahead of him, the faint glow from a backup light casting long shadows that seemed to shift even when he stood still. In his mind, there had to be an explanation: faulty wiring, a glitch in the system, maybe even interference from outside. That was how he justified it. That was how he stayed grounded. Because admitting anything else would mean accepting something he had spent his entire life rejecting: that not everything could be controlled. He reached the first camera mounted near the hallway ceiling. It hung exactly where he had installed it, but the small indicator light that once blinked steadily was now completely off. He stepped closer, examining it carefully, his fingers brushing against the casing. Nothing appeared damaged. No loose wires. No signs of tampering. Yet it was lifeless. Daniel exhaled slowly, trying to keep his thoughts aligned. One failure was a coincidence. Two might be a system error. But deep down, something was beginning to press against his certainty, something he refused to name. A faint sound echoed from somewhere deeper in the house. Daniel froze. It wasn't loud. It wasn't even clear. Just a subtle shift in the silence, like something moving where nothing should have been. His eyes scanned the darkness ahead, his jaw tightening. For a brief moment, instinct told him to stop, to wait, to reconsider. But that instinct was quickly buried beneath the weight of his confidence. He had come this far. Turning back now wasn't an option he allowed himself to consider. Enough, he said under his breath, more to steady himself than anything else. He followed the sound. Each step felt heavier than the last, the air growing thicker, as if the house itself was resisting him. The walls, once familiar, now seemed distant and unfamiliar, stretching just slightly longer than they should. When he reached the living room, he noticed something that made him pause again. One of the chairs had moved. It was subtle. Most people wouldn't have noticed. But Daniel knew exactly where everything was supposed to be. He had arranged it all himself, carefully, precisely. The chair now faced a different direction, angled toward the hallway he had just walked through, as if it had been positioned to watch. His breath slowed. This time, the confidence didn't return so easily. Instead of rushing forward, Daniel circled the room slowly, his eyes darting between corners, shadows, reflections in the darkened windows. His mind worked quickly, trying to rebuild control from the pieces that were slipping through his grasp. Someone could be inside. That had to be it. Someone was playing a game with him, trying to unsettle him. Yes, he whispered, almost convincing himself. That's all this is. But even as he said it, the silence around him felt too complete. Too intentional. Then, from behind him, another sound. Closer this time. Daniel turned instantly, his movements sharp, his focus locked onto the source. The hallway he had just left now looked darker than before, as if the light itself had withdrawn. For a brief second, he thought he saw something shift at the edge of his vision, something that disappeared the moment he tried to focus on it directly. His heartbeat quickened. Not out of fear, but out of realization. This wasn't behaving like anything he understood. Still, he refused to step back. Instead, he did the one thing that defined him: he moved forward. Step by step, he walked back into the hallway, this time slower, more deliberate. His eyes adjusted to the darkness, searching for patterns, for logic, for anything he could hold on to. But the further he went, the more the house seemed to lose its structure. The distance between walls felt inconsistent. The air felt colder. Even the sound of his own footsteps seemed delayed, echoing just a fraction too late. And then he saw it. At the far end of the hallway, where there should have been nothing but a closed door, there was a shape. Not clear enough to describe. Not solid enough to define. But it was there. Standing. Watching. Daniel stopped. For the first time, his confidence didn't give him an answer. The silence stretched between them, heavy and unmoving. His mind searched desperately for logic, for explanation, for something that would restore the control he had built his identity around. But there was nothing. No pattern. No rule. No way to predict what would happen next. And that's when the realization finally reached him. Control was never his to begin with. The moment that thought settled in, everything shifted. The shape at the end of the hallway didn't move closer. It didn't need to. Because the space between them began to close on its own, the distance shrinking without either of them taking a step. The walls seemed to narrow, the air tightening, the entire environment bending in a way that defied everything Daniel believed in. His breath became uneven. Not panic, but the collapse of certainty. He tried to step back, but the floor behind him didn't feel the same. It was as if the path he had taken no longer existed in the way he remembered it. Every direction felt wrong. Every movement uncertain. And in that moment, his greatest strength, his unshakable confidence, became the very thing that trapped him. Because he had never learned how to stop. Never learned how to question when something couldn't be controlled. Never learned how to walk away. The house grew quieter. Still. As if everything had reached its conclusion. By morning, the town returned to its usual calm. The streets were quiet. The neighbors carried on as they always did, exchanging brief greetings, avoiding anything that might disturb the illusion of normalcy. Daniel's house stood at the edge of it all, unchanged from the outside. No signs of damage. No noise. No movement. Just silence. And inside, the cameras remained off. Whatever had happened during the night left no clear trace, no explanation that could be easily understood or shared. Only a lingering sense that something had shifted, something subtle but permanent. People would later talk about him in passing, recalling his confidence, his certainty, the way he believed he could handle anything. But the truth was far simpler. He didn't fail because he lacked intelligence. He didn't fail because he wasn't prepared. He failed because he believed nothing existed beyond his control. And in the end, that belief led him exactly where he never thought he could go. Into the unknown. Where confidence alone was never enough.